This is Dr. Mark Smith, and I would like to take you through a walkthrough of how to do a proper risk matrix assessment using a very rudimentary Excel document that we'll be utilizing in class. So, for the scenario at hand, I always like to be kind of a little out of the norm, and we're going to be doing a risk assessment for opening a Jurassic Park. Pretty robust and highly risky situation that goes in. So, just a long story short, as we jump into it, risk matrix and assessments are essential part of any project management and most likely leadership-based role for pre-planning and production of any type of project that's going on. So for this scenario, we're going to be creating a risk assessment based on the possibility and the project of opening a Jurassic Park. So we're going to go in the mindset of the project manager that has been green light, that the commodities are there, and that we're just going through the process of establishing and creating a park that would be in a Jurassic Park theme. And if you're not familiar with Jurassic Park, sad, but it's pretty much about a park with dinosaurs in it if you haven't seen one of the many movies that they've made, and they typically never go well. Let's start by just going through the scenario. So as I'm going to just kind of give you some ideas of how this would work. So you pretty much start with coming up with a risk that would potentially happen during the course of the project of creating and opening a Jurassic Park. We're not going to think about liability after the fact. We're going to think about risks and situations that would happen within the creation of our project and what we have from the completion, middle, and end portion of it. After the fact, as far as like customer liability and things of that nature, not really our concern. We're thinking more towards the lines of the beginning, middle, and end of the project of creating and eventually getting to the stages where the park could be open to the public. Okay, so afterwards, it's on them to figure it out. Project management we're focusing on is actually creating it. So anyway, what you do is you come up with different various risks that can happen within the project. You give it a severity rank of how terrible from a 1 to 10 scale of, either 1 being not so bad to 10 being catastrophic on the possibility of the project. Severity is how badly it can affect it. There's the probability of, the chances and likelihood of this happening, 1 being very, very slim, 10 being very reliable and potentially going to happen, almost certain. You come up with what are you going to do about it, mitigation strategy as far as like what will be the action that you will take in order to fix this. Where and when are you going to be doing this? Is this going to be pre-project, in the middle, during, or during all phases of it, or at the completion phase? And then after the mitigation or what you're going to do has been put into place, when you're going to do it, we look at the severity if it's changed and the probability that it's changed. So just to kind of give you an idea, as we're going through the opening of Jurassic Park area, let's say hypothetically that we have during the course of creation of something of that nature, we have an employee get hurt. So employee gets hurt. That is a high potential risk for this type of situation. The severity of that on the project, would that be something that catastrophically halted the project? Well, that's a very good question, but let's say hypothetically if the person gets severely hurt, death, something of that nature, it may or not stop the project, which would be a higher rank of like, let's say an 8. It wouldn't stop it completely. It wouldn't like ruin the whole project, but it definitely would be a hindrance. And the probability of that happening if we don't make any mitigation or changes or adjustments of an employee getting hurt in this type of setup is, I'm going to say kind of high, and we'll say like a 7, because the chances are pretty good with electrical fences and dinosaurs and a whole bunch of other things. There's a high probability of going. Let's just make it an 8. Now, in the case of an employee getting hurt during the phase of creation of your Jurassic Park, what would you do in order to, you have to ask yourself, like, what are you going to do about it to stop that portion of it? Well, some key factors you can have is like some strict rules as far as how to do things. You can have a lot of safety precautions put into place, various things of that nature. We could hold off on bringing the dinosaurs in until last minute. There's a bunch of other things that could be listed in it, but you guys get the picture. You pretty much start laying out what you could do to stop the employees from getting hurt in various ways. So from that, when would you put this stuff into place? This would be most likely something you would do like in the beginning of the project, beginning, middle, and end of the project. And so that's when you would do it. Now, the severity of an employee getting hurt most likely is not going to change. You might be able to mitigate it a little bit as far as, hopefully people don't get hurt immensely anymore. So we're able to drop that down maybe like a 6 because we've kind of put some more safety measures in place, put some trainings, etc., etc. Was able to get it down. And then the probability we might be able to get that to go down a little bit as well to like a 5 or a 6. So we'll just give it a 5 as far as 50% chance and a 60% chance at the severity of it when it happens. So we'd be able to drop these portions a bit with just putting some mitigation strategies. Are you ever going to get rid of risk completely? Some things yes, some things no. It just depends on what exactly it is. Things have to do with employees getting hurt in a very tough situation where it can be dangerous. It's going to happen. You just try to minimize that as much as humanly possible, as far as like making sure that if they do get hurt, the severity is not terrible, and then also that the probability can be a little bit lower, so it's not a situation that's going to cause a lot of strife, issues, or problems of that nature. So that's how you do this exercise, and that's how you put these things together. You can pretty much start listing them as you go. The easiest and best strategy is kind of listing all the risks and then going through the process of what that's going to look at. That could be, you know, dinosaurs getting loose because you're going to be putting them into the park, so that could be a portion of it. It could be hurting the dinosaurs during transportation. This could be, faulty tech, bad hardware, blackouts. What else happened? I'm trying to think of all the movies and things of that nature. But you guys get the picture. You put down all the different things that can happen. You give a severity ranks to it. The severity of dinosaurs getting loose. That could be a pretty catastrophic thing, as we've seen. And the probability of happening, as we look at movies, is probably a 10 as well. What are you going to do to put it in place? I don't know. You have to think of some mitigation strategies. But you see how this works. You do the 1 through 10 type scenario to kind of give you an idea. And from this, you're able to assess exactly how that's going to look. So for the exercise at hand for project management, that's what you're going to be creating for me for the various assignment that is tied to it for this weekend risk. So I hope this is informative.